our bodies are finite systems of energy. And when we encounter a sudden trauma or some other stressor, our body works hard to get us prepared to deal with it. So we have this 3-phase system or syndrome that was suggested by Hans Selye, and he died in 1982. But Hans Selye suggested that the first phase is fight or flight. Our first phase of alarm includes this massive outpouring of adrenaline, noradrenaline, or epinephrine and norepinephrine, and we're getting prepared to fight or flee the stressor. In the second phase, we continue to resist that stressor, and the brain is continuing to send signals to the glands to keep us producing our stress hormones, to keep us prepared to fight or flee that stressor. And what happens is, because again our bodies are finite systems of energy, in the third phase of what Selye called the general adaptation syndrome, we become exhausted. And when we become exhausted, the body has to let something go. And what it chooses to sacrifice is the immune system. So after dealing with stressor upon stressor and running multiple reactions, multiple general adaptation syndromes in response, with this continued fight or flight response, eventually the body runs out of the energy it needs to run the immune system, and that's when we become vulnerable to diseases of all kind, from the common cold to cancer. So we can see various signs of physical deterioration and even premature aging from the signs of stress. We produce fewer new neurons. Remember that we only produce a very tiny number of new neurons after birth to begin with. We actually have neural circuitry in the brain break down. And on the end of our cells, there's a structure in DNA called the telomere. It's really the tip of the chromosome. And that telomere gets shorter every time the cell divides, until eventually when it can no longer, when the telomere is gone, the cell can no longer divide and the cell dies. And the more stress we're under, the faster the cells divide, the more quickly we lose that telomere, and the more quickly our cells die and we age. This is really a theoretical proposition, but there's quite a bit of support for it. For example, in a 2004 study, women who suffered stress as caregivers for children of serious disorders had cells that looked actually a decade older than their chronological age, presumably due to the effects of stress on the aging process and the physical body.